Do you feel like every creative project is just going from chaos to more chaos? And then new projects come on and it just increases that chaos even more? Today, we're going to talk about how to take your creativity from chaos to clarity. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Creativity Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Pead, creative coach and consultant. I'm here to help creatives know themselves, their process, and their teams so that they can create greater things together. Today is January 30th, 2025. It's episode 94. We're going to talk about going from chaos to clarity and how to organize your creative business with systems and processes. Now, I know that many people hear that and they go, whoa, don't put me in a box. We're going to talk about that. But before we do, I want to remind you that you can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, all those other places like that. You can find me at Dustin Pead, DustinPead. You can find me online at dustinpead.com, where you can click to get on my calendar for a free consultation. We can talk about any of the things that I'm discussing here on the podcast. Also have a weekly newsletter that releases every Sunday and a weekly blog post that if you're subscribed to the newsletter, you'll get as well every single Tuesday. If you're listening to this podcast on whatever platform you listen to, I would appreciate some type of 5-star rating or review. Really helps to get this content out further to those like yourself who can benefit from it. If you're watching on YouTube, hello there. I'm so glad that you're here. Would encourage you to hit the like button. That's the thumbs up. Also, subscribe and ring the bell while you're there. Anytime content is dropped throughout the week, including this episode every week, then you will be the first to know about it. All right, let's get into today's episode. Look, I meet with creatives all the time and I hear the pushback. Look, I'm creative. You can't put me in a box. Don't try to organize this. We're just a bunch of tigers. Well, just like Todd Henry said in his book, sometimes we need to herd the tigers to get to where we want to go. And that's where I come in. And that's where I'd love to help you. And so today what we're going to talk about is organizing your creative business to go from chaos to clarity. Because if you're honest with yourself, creative, you know that it just feels like chaos upon chaos upon chaos. And so many creators that I meet with just go, man, I just wish I had clarity. I just wish I had clarity. I wish I had clarity. Because if I had that clarity, I could create my greatest work, right? And that's what we're here to discover each and every time on this podcast. So today, specifically how to go from chaos to clarity, we're going to talk about some systems and processes that you need to implement to help you move in that direction. So first thing is there are a few frameworks that I offer that I've picked up along the way, that I've morphed along the way, that I think will help you. Number one thing that I teach in every single one of my coaching and consulting clients is the difference between due dates, DO, and DUE dates. You've heard me talk about this many times on this podcast if you've listened, but if you're new to this, it's the concept of many people live in a marginless zone of DUE dates. They wake up every day and something is DUE. Oh my gosh, that's due today. I didn't know. I forgot about it, whatever. And now they're crunched for time. They throw something together real quick. It's not what the client wanted. It's not what they wanted. And they're left feeling like, I just wish I would have prepared myself for that to execute it better. And that's where DO dates come in. So this framework basically teaches you how to work and live off of DO dates, meaning this, when are you going to actually do it before it is actually DUE. So do it before it's due, if that makes sense. So I'll tell you at the end of this podcast how to get that framework absolutely free from me. Another concept that I teach, and this is kind of a common phrase in modern vernacular, but it's the concept of future you. I know many people joke about it when they might be out drinking or partying, or they might be doing something that they know they're not supposed to be doing. They might be eating something they're not supposed to be. They know they're not supposed to be eating something that's not good for them. And what do they? And they kind of chuckle and go, "Oh, that's a future me problem." Right? It's a great joke. It's hilarious every single time. But this concept of this future you is something that you need to adapt into your own way of thinking so that you're not constantly behind and you're not constantly living in the chaos. And so what I teach in my future you framework is basically it's a note-taking framework. How can I take notes when I'm meeting with a client, when we're in a brainstorm, when tasks are either assigned to me or I'm assigning them to others? How can I take notes in such a way that sets up future you or future team for success. And so if you work with me as a coach or as a consultant, I'll walk you through that as well. And then lastly, another piece of a framework that I offer is a 12-month outlook. A lot of times we're blindsided by things because we forgot that they were coming, right? So when I was in ministry, we always forgot about Veterans Day. I know it sounds bad. Look, we love America, but it would sneak up on us and we would forget it. And it would sneak up on us because it's in November. And by November in ministry, you're only thinking Christmas, right? You're thinking, how do I pull off Christmas? There's so much to do. You're working 60-hour weeks to pull off the best Christmas experience possible. And we would forget about Veterans Day. And so what we did in our 12-month outlook is we would put it Veterans Day, boom, right there. So that starting about 3 months before Veterans Day, we would start talking about what we were going to do to honor veterans on Veterans Day. And it's as simple as just putting it on this 12-month outlook in the right spot so that when we get to it, we are ready for it. We've been ready for it for 3 months at this point. It's not an afterthought. And so there are a lot of recurring things for you, or a lot of big rocks that are on your calendar this year. Like for me, I'm speaking at a couple conferences in October. If I wait to kind of hone in those talks, if I wait till October to hone in those talks, that's too late. We're already here. That's not going to go as well. But if I go, you know what, put myself a reminder on my 12-month outlook to say, hey, in June, I'm going to really put some focused sprint time on refining these talks and getting these things ready for these conferences that I'm speaking at. Then by the time October comes, I'm more than ready. Again, that kind of goes back to the do versus do. It kind of goes back to the future you, right? It's all about setting yourself up for success. Listen, creatives, the reason you struggle so much with clarity is because you don't provide clarity for yourself in the past. If you today choose to provide clarity for future you by doing the DO versus DUE process, or providing yourself a 12-month outlook, if you don't do that, you're setting yourself up for continued chaos. All right, second thing. In order to go from chaos to clarity in your systems and your processes, is there are some digital tools out there that you need to kind of master. It's 2025. We don't live in the analog world anymore. You can do 90% of your work analog if that's what your creative outlet is. That's awesome. But at a certain point, we live in a digital world, and you need to master some of these tools. Some tools that I refer to a lot and that I use a lot is a project management tool. I specifically use Asana, but there are lots of other ones out there. There's Monday.com, and there's Trello, and there's Basecamp, and all these different things that are out there. Whatever it is that you use, even if you just use Post-it notes, it doesn't matter. I know that's not digital, but it doesn't matter what you use at the end of the day. You need to get a good system down for yourself that works for you and not against you. That's the problem many of us creatives have, is we might have some of these things set up in our lives. We're like, oh, I tried Asana, but it didn't work for me. The reason it didn't work for you is because you didn't set it up to work for you. You tried to let it tell you what to do. You need to put all that stuff in there in the right way so that it can tell you later on down the road, this is what you need to DO today before it's DUE. And me personally, my teams that I lead, the clients that I walk through this process with, we use Asana for that because I feel like it's the most simplified version of a project management online tool. Slack for communication, Google Chat, WhatsApp, whatever it is that you use, some type of communication you need to stick with as few channels as possible. Are you an email person? You better get really good at email. Are you a text person? Get really good at text, schedule text, reminder texts, all that type of stuff. For me and my clients, we like to use digital on like dedicated chat threads like a Google Chat or Slack. I love Slack because it integrates with Asana. I can add tasks to or for my clients directly on the conversation that we're having from Slack. Last week, we talked a little bit about CRMs. I did speak with VidLead Studio, and we do have a referral program set up. So if you're interested in VidLead Studio, contact me, dp@dustinpead.com. I'll get you set up with the guys over at VidLead Studio. It's a VidLead Studio, if you missed last week, is a CRM, customer relationship management tool, specifically designed for creatives. They're amazing people. They're doing amazing things, and they have an incredibly easy system to use with some incredible customer service. I cannot recommend them enough. So if you're interested, reach out to me. I'll hook you up with them. Third point I want to make today about how to go from chaos to clarity. It sounds super simple, but it's really massive. And I'm just talking to some of my clients about this recently. You need at least once a week. I recommend once a week, no less than once a week. You need to physically clean up your workspace. All right. Creatives are messy people. I get it. You like having the mess. You like having all the stuff around. But eventually, all of that physical chaos makes its way into your mind and you just can't think clearly. You need to declutter a little bit. You need to organize a little bit. If you're like me or my son, we like stacks. We stack things all over the place. My wife walks into a room and she knows that either me or my son has been in the room because things are stacked up in different places and they might not have a rhyme or reason to anyone else, but we know where they're at, right? Either way, it's cleaned, it's organized. Once a week, have yourself a cleanup of your physical space. I like to do this on Sunday nights. I'll come down here to my studio. Sunday nights, I'll tidy things up while I'm doing my weekly preview for the week and my full focus planner. I'll put on some music. I'll watch Sunday Night Football, whatever happens to be on, and I will tidy up the space and get everything in place ready for the week so that I can tackle the week right out the gate without coming down on Monday morning and going, oh, it's such a mess down here and I have to stop what I'm doing to clean up, or I can't think, it's too chaotic. I'm going to leave here. I'm going to go to a coffee shop, and you get to the coffee shop and there's a crying kid in the background and you're just like, there's nowhere I can go to get things done. I'm just not going to get anything done today. Chaos. So if you just take a moment at the beginning or end of each week and clean up your physical space, it goes a long way. I will say too, digital space cleanup just as important. Don't be the person that has icons all over your desktop or a download bin that's full from 3 years ago. Look, I'm preaching to myself here. The download bin is my kryptonite. I hate cleaning out my download bin. I tried to hire my son at one point to clean out my download bin, but I realized it was taking just as much time for me to tell him where everything goes. So it just wasn't working. But download bins, physical desktop space, all that stuff. So just like you're cleaning your physical space once a week, do a digital purge once a week. Clean some stuff out. Shut some tabs, by God. Shut some tabs. Restart your computer. I know it's a crazy concept, but we wonder why our laptops give out after a year or two. It's because we just leave them on 24/7, 365. Maybe restart it every once in a while. Maybe turn it off on the weekend. Let it get some rest so it can be ready for you when you come back on Monday. All right, I know that's all funny. Last thing I want to say here too, and a way to take you from chaos to clarity, specifically around your teams. Look, team communication is the linchpin for taking your creativity from chaos to clarity. It is the linchpin. You have to communicate. And there are 3 things here I want to mention. There's lots of different strategies and tactics that you need to be implementing for it to increase your team communication. But there's 3 here today that I specifically want to hit to help you go from chaos to clarity. Number 1, you have to have a clearly defined creative process, and everybody has to know this process like the back of their hand. They need to be able to spout it off to you. They need to be able to know at each and every section, oh, we're in this phase right now, or we're in this phase right now. For me, I use the 4D creative process. I've adapted kind of my own version of it over the years. 4D creative process was originally introduced by the Imagineers at Disney, so you know it's legit. It was introduced to me by a creative coach about a decade or so ago, and then I've kind of changed a few of the D's around and things like that to kind of work for me in my mind. But really, whatever works for you is what you need to do. The 4D creative process is a framework that I walk through with all my clients, whether a coaching client or a consulting client. And the 4D creative process is simple. First, you have to define the problem, right? Creativity is problem solving, nothing more, nothing less. So you have to define what the problem is. What are we trying to do here? What's the win? Number 2, dream about it. This is where creatives love it. This is where creatives shine the most. This is where you get to come up with all sorts of ideas. It's a blank canvas. It's an empty wall. It's a blank sheet of paper. It's an empty notebook. Dump all the ideas, you and your team, on this. Make a mess. Go nuts, right? That's the dream phase. It's super fun. But right after that, Now comes the design phase, where you're going to take all those ideas and you're going to design the perfect product or the perfect solution to the problem that you said you were going to solve in the beginning. And then lastly, it's the develop phase. This is where the rubber hits the road. This is where we have to get to work. We have to get it done, right? We have to DO it before it's DUE. All right. Second thing to help your teams go from chaos to clarity is a super simple meeting. And I know everybody hates meetings, but listen, if you would just have a simple 15 to 20 minute project kickoff meeting with every single project that you and your team take on, and you as the leader, you don't need to be at all of these meetings. But someone on your team who's going to head up this project needs to host a project kickoff meeting with the client. And this is where you set clear expectations. You set clear timelines of clear expectations of deliverables, clear timelines of schedules. When are we going to, if you need to go shoot something or capture something or go build something, here's the date. So we're going to go do that. Let's do it while we're on the call. We're not having to go back and forth or send Calendly links. It's an opportunity for you to kind of get that stuff all boom, boom, boom. It's on the calendar. It's on our project management software. We know when it's going to happen. We know when we're going to DO every step of the process before it's DUE. So project kickoff meetings, super helpful. They don't need to be super long. They're not for ideas. Those ideas have already happened. They're not for project briefing. We've already been briefed on the project. This is strictly for, hey, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it. Here's the players that are involved. Here's what I expect of you, client. Here's what you can expect of us. Boom, meeting over. It's just clarity to the max. That's what we're after here. And lastly, with your teams and with your clients, you need to paint done. This is a Brene Brown concept that she taught in one of her books. I'm going to butcher which book it is. I'm not sure if it's Rising Strong or Dare to Lead. It's one of those two. But in one of those books, she teaches this concept called paint done. And it's a way for people to just say, hey, I need you to create this graphic for us. Great. Well, can you paint done for me of what you envision that graphic looking like when it's all said and done? Just kind of close your eyes and tell me, what do you see? Paint a picture of what done looks like. Doing this will save you so much headache internally as a team if your boss asks you to do something, or externally with a client. If you can ask them to paint done for you, it will get you closer to the target and you will win time after time with your boss, with your coworkers, or with your clients by simply asking them to paint done for you. So organize some frameworks. We got do versus do, the future you concept, the 12-month outlook, all those things I go through in my coaching with you. Mastering some digital tools, right? So project management software, some communication software like Slack, some CRMs like VidLead Studio or Go High Level, or HubSpot, or whatever you use. Some physical and digital space cleanup every week, right, is going to help you go from chaos to clarity. And then lastly, the team coordination and communication, the 4D creative process, or whatever your creative process is that works for you. Project kickoff meetings, and then asking them to paint done for you before you get started on it will save you so much chaos and provide so much clarity. All right, that's all for this week. I want to remind you, you can pick up Asana for creative teams. Now, I know if you don't use Asana, that's fine. Even if you use Notion or Monday.com or whatever, this book still applies to you. I taught it from the perspective of Asana, but the techniques and tips and tools inside of it will help you no matter what platform you use, even if you just use sticky notes. Go grab your copy of Asana for creative teams at dustinpead.com/store. You can pick it up there. It's $10. Grab a copy for yourself and your team. Also, the do versus do process, do versus do framework, DO versus DUE is there as well. You can pick that up absolutely free. It is yours. Take it, use it, go from chaos to clarity in your creativity this week. Cannot wait to be back with you next week as we get closer and closer to episode 100. We'll talk to you next week on Creativity Made Easy.